welcome again to my channel. My name is Emelda Chinecherem and I'm a psychologist who is your neighbor. I always like to say that. In the last video, we started with discussing the different areas of psychology, and I said we're going to explore 20 different areas. We talked about the 10 first areas of psychology. And today we're going to continue with the next 10 areas of psychology. Okay? We're going to talk about the next 10 areas of psychology. Now, if you are just joining us and you've not subscribed, kindly subscribe to this channel, please. Just click on the red button, turn on the notification bell, and voila, we are one. This is the only way you can help us grow. Now let's go into the business of the day. Episode 2 of the different areas of psychology. Let's delve. Remember we talked about the 10 first areas of psychology. Now this week we're going to focus on talking about the rest of the 10, which will sum them up to 20. Clap for your teacher, I'm doing very well. Alright, so number 11 is neuropsychology. Neuropsychology is an aspect of psychology that deals with how the nervous system, the functions within the nervous system, or the structure and the functionalities that happen within the nervous system and the brain affect human behavior. Now, you might not know how all these things work together. You might not know how your brain, your spinal cord, the different PNS, different CNS all come together to influence your behavior. This is what neuropsychologists study. They study details of these processes in order to help you know how they affect human behavior. Just in case there is something like a brain damage or a brain infection, or there is an infection with any domain of the nervous system, you might not know how these things influence the person's behavior or how it affects the person's personality, except you go into studies. So neuropsychologists actually study this thing in order to help people that are suffering from any brain injury or problems with the central nervous system or the PNS to adjust well in order to maintain nominal behavior within their society. Now, the second we are seeing today, which is number 12, is sports psychology. Sports psychology is the application of psychological principles in the sports. It's as simple as that. There are so many things that you might do as an athlete that will affect your performances in sports as well as your well-being. So sports psychologists help you to maintain optimal behavior and help you to engage in relevant activities that will both improve your performance as an athlete or a footballer, and also your well-being as a person. So they don't try to separate your person from the sport, but they try to give you behaviors, activities, things you should not go extreme in doing in order not to lose your life in the process of being good at your job, or try to save your life at the expense of your sports performance. So in other words, sports psychologists help you to maintain improvements in sports and well-being as well. Alright, so we've talked about the first and the second. Now number 3, which is number 13 from our previous list, is cognitive psychology. Cognitive psychology studies perception, intelligence, thinking, memory, problem solving. Cognitive psychology studies this domain just to improve your cognition. Okay? For instance, the things that are involved in improving your memory, how to improve your problem solving ability, how intelligence can be improved, or even your level of intelligence, which is normally referred to as IQ, and all sorts of things that are related to your cognition. That is what cognitive psychology is all about. I hope you understand. Number four, that is number 14 from our previous study, is school psychology. Now, school psychology is like an applied psychology that brings about the study of different areas of psychology. Number one includes educational psychology. Remember we talked about educational psychology. Number two is environmental psychology, clinical psychology, counseling psychology, career psychology, all these domains of psychology put together. Do you know why? Because you can't talk about school without talking about education. And you can't talk about school without talking about environment, especially these two parts. School psychology is study of how the school system, the curriculum, the different rules and regulations that exist in school, the different patterns of punishment that exist in school, the reward pattern that exists in school. You know what I mean by reward pattern is how children are reinforced. For instance, first position is a reward pattern that's used to encourage children, to do better in their studies. But you also know that that position, which is a reward pattern for some kind of people, is also not a punishment to some. Because when a child takes like the 30th position, the child feels less of himself. Sometimes it affects the self-esteem. So school psychology studies how all these rules, regulation, reward system, punishment system, like either spanking the child, using cane, and all those things affect the children and also the teachers and everybody within the school environment. That is why I said that it involves educational psychology, environmental counseling, psychology, and what other area of psychology did I mention? Clinical psychology. Number 5, which is the 15th from our previous study, is engineering psychology. I know some of you might be surprised. Is there engineering psychology? Does it exist? What kind of thing is that? Engineering psychology actually exists. In fact, as a general psychologist, you study psychophysics. You know how all these things function, how emotions affect how human behavior is affected by emotions, how human cognitions come about, all this. It was a person that designed bearing, the person that designed the aircraft. It was a person that designed what machines, robots. Okay. Now, engineering psychology is just the application of psychology in engineering, and this is very important because there are certain kind of cognition or cognitive ability that is required before you can go into development of machines, and you need to know how human beings behave in order to use these machines to enhance their life. So if there is no proper interaction between human beings and machine, there will be a problem. So engineering psychology helps to ameliorate this problem by helping to improve interaction between humans and machines by taking the human component and applying it to the machine component. I hope you understand that. If you have any questions relating to this, just comment, put it in the comment section, and I'll respond to that. ESA. Now let's go to the 6th one, which is number 16 of the area of psychology, according to our list. Number 16 is cross-cultural psychology. You as an individual should know how your culture has affected you, how your culture has influenced your thought pattern, how your culture has affected your dress pattern, how your culture has affected your thinking pattern, the way you relate with people, certain stereotypes that you have, certain prejudices against some cultures that you have, and how you have also loved some culture. There are persons that love many cultures. How you love other cultures, how you want to even adapt, how to take from a culture. and bring into yours. Okay, so cross-cultural psychology is that branch of psychology that study how human behaviors are affected by different cultures, their own culture as well as the culture of others, and how cultures adapt. And it's important to know that culture is very important because according to definition, the simplest definition, it is the people's way of life. So if you can't take away a person's life from his culture, that is why it is very important to understand how culture affects behavior. Uniqueness of culture exists, but culture can also be universal and so many other things. Number seven is health psychology. Health psychology, as simple as the name implies, is just the application of psychological principles in what improving health outcomes. There are so many things that you don't know about medicine. You might not know. I don't want to assume you don't, but you might not know about medicine that some diseases are not just caused by bacteria, virus, and some other things. There are diseases there are illnesses that are caused by behavior. For instance, ulcer. Some persons think that ulcer is the result of not eating very well, although that is also a behavior. But ulcer can also be caused by stress. So health psychology helps you to know the kind of behavior that could lead to that could impede your health and help you to avoid certain behaviors like that. And if it is not something that you can avoid, it can help you to manage those illnesses or manage those situations very well so that you can at least have an optimal health status. That is it about health psychology. But I will not fail to also mention that health psychology is not just about prevention, it's also about treatment or management. There are people that are already having some health challenges as a result of behavior. Health psychologists will help these individuals to develop a line of healthy activities. For instance, feeding. If, for instance, you are obese, health psychologists will help you to arrange the kind of diet, exercising, and other things that will help you to reduce your maybe the ability or the effects, the impact of obesity, and at the long run even treat you from that. Everything is not about taking drugs, injections, and all. You also know that your behavior can affect all these things. Number 8, which is the 18th from our list, is evolutionary psychology. Evolutionary psychology, like name implies, just has its foundation from Darwin's study. You know Darwin's study of evolution, that people evolved from this to that to that to that. I don't want to go into that. But evolutionary psychology deals with how individuals' feelings, thoughts, practices has helped them to evolve from their ancestors to the present time. There are things like killing of twins, for instance, okay, has been a norm because maybe our forefathers thought that that twins were an abomination and all. But at the long run, people began to discover that this is not actually true, that having twins is not actually a crime, it's not an abomination, cannot cause any harmful damages to people. Actually, it's a healthy thing. And they evolved from killing twins to leaving them to be alive. Alright, so we move on to the 19th and the 9th, which is positive psychology. Positive psychology. Some of you might be surprised again that is there something like positive psychology? I thought everything psychology was about positive being, positive thinking, positive. Yes, it's a branch of psychology, one of the applied areas of psychology. Okay, positive psychology studies how you can employ positivity into work, into your personal life, into interpersonal relationship, into institutions, positivity into every and different areas of life. That is what positive psychology is all about. You might tell someone to be positive, be this, be that, but the person might not know how to go about being positive until you give the person a guideline. You help the person to guide the person on how to be positive. This is what positive psychologists do. They teach you, they help people. There are people who are very neurotic to the point that they don't believe that anything good can happen to them. Positive psychologists help them to overcome that fear, that anxiety of life, and assist them to lead a positive life, both personally, interpersonally, in work, in religion, and all. Alright, the 20th, the last but not the least, is personality psychology. Personality psychology is the branch of psychology that helps you to understand or that studies different personality traits of people. We believe that personality traits are the foundations of behavior, and we divided it into two places: the state personality and the trait personality. So there are traits that actually make you to behave the way you do. For instance, people used to ask you, I don't know if anybody has asked you to take a survey before, the 16 factor personality survey. They try to find out what traits you have that can actually bring about this kind of behavior. Now, there are people who actually, the foundation of personality traits is from temperaments. I'm giving you an example. People say, are you choleric? Are you melancholic? Are you phlegmatic? All those things are also part of what we call personality traits, but they are cliche. They are actually obsolete as far as psychology is concerned. There are other factors of personality traits that is studied, because you can't just categorize the whole world into 4 different temperaments or traits, as you call it. There are many different traits that people have that actually make them to behave the way they do. And the interesting thing about studying personality psychology is that it helps you to predict the behavior of a person. It helps you to tell what this person can actually do in this kind of situation. Another beauty of it is that you say that there are 2 types: traits and state. People, you're able to tell that even someone who is an extrovert, when he gets to a new environment that he's not familiar with, there is a tendency to be quiet for some time. The person gives an introverted behavior, and someone who just met you could just imagine or think or conclude or assume that this person is an introvert, whereas the person is just exhibiting a state personality as a result of the situation and the environment he is in. So personality psychology studies all these things so that you can predict what kind of behavior a person can exhibit in different situations. Now that is it for different areas of psychology. So tell me what you learned from this video, and if you have questions, don't forget to ask. Also, subscribe to this channel. Please subscribe. Don't just watch this video and subscribe. Please subscribe, share it, get people to know about what we are doing here. In subsequent videos, we are going to be bringing real life issues. We're talking about real life stuff. But I believe that we've been able to lay a foundation. You now understand psychology and what it includes. Thank you very much for coming again. Bye.